Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jessica Rubio. I'm one of our financial educators at MSU Federal Credit Union. And I want to welcome you to a presentation today on family finances. We're going to be discussing some saving options, money, budgeting, and kind of how to get ahead. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So some facts that I like to share when we get started talking about presentations like this is, did you know 5 out of 10 Americans have less than $1,000 in savings account? So if you are one of those individuals, don't feel like you're alone. 10%, or 5 out of 10, that's only 50%. That's a really low value. So the goal is to start with getting maybe 10% into savings of what you make and kind of grow your savings from there. And with savings, you want to start small. Don't think that you have to have this big, huge goal of saving. It starts small. It starts every paycheck. Even if it's $10 every paycheck, you can kind of go up from there. And then the other fact that I like to also talk about is how much does it cost to raise a child per year? When I pulled these numbers, it was very surprising for me. So on average, it costs about $12,980 per year to raise one child in the U.S. So through age 18, that's $233,610. So it kind of puts things into perspective when we think about how much money and how we manage our money to be able to take care of our families. And just as a little quick thing I forgot to say in the beginning, if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll stop periodically and I'll be happy to get those answered. So first, when we start talking about finances and stuff, we want to really kind of talking about a little bit about budgeting. And when I like to talk about budgeting, I like to talk about what is your savings personality? Okay, so your savings or your spending personality can tell you a little bit about how you are with your finances. So when we look at these ones up on the screen, these are 6 of the top spending personalities. And I want to break them down a little bit by each one. And then I encourage you in the chat to go ahead and put what you think your spending personality is, or if you identify with a few of them. So the first one is going to be the planner. This is someone who maybe uses a budget already when they go to make purchases or have expenses. They're pretty intentional and it's all planned out of how they want to spend their money. The next one is going to be a hoarder. So this one is, they don't really like to spend money. They're more of the saver. They only want to really spend money when it's absolutely necessary. The next one is going to be the giver. This is going to be maybe someone who finds themselves helping others financially quite a bit, whether it's a family member, whether it's, kids, children, friends, family. You tend to help others, and maybe that could be a hindrance in your saving. The next one is a merger. So we usually talk about mergers when finances are combined. So if you're in a household and you combine your finances with someone, you could identify as a merger. The next one is going to be a separatist. So a separatist is someone who keeps money separated in between accounts or sub-savers. So a lot of times here at the credit union, we actually, with our savings accounts, you can have up to 10 sub-savers. So we see a lot of individuals having different savings accounts specified for different things. So they split their money up. So then that way, not everything is sitting in like one savings account. And then the last one is impulse. So this is kind of like the YOLO mentality. Like, I make the money, I want to spend it. I'm not maybe super concerned about saving at that moment. So I will share with everybody what mine is. I tend to try to fall on the planner side. I'm a little bit of a giver. I'm a mom of a 13-year-old. So as you parents know, we have to give a lot of money for our children, whether it's sports or clothes or shoes when they grow out of things, all of those type of things. And then also a merger. I just got married a year ago. And so my husband and I are still working on merging a lot of our finances together. So I'll pause for just a moment. And if you'd like to share what you think maybe your spending personality is, go ahead and drop that in the chat. And if you don't want to share, that's totally okay as well. Okay. I see they identify with 3. Yeah, as you can see, I identified with 3 as well. Are there any ones in particular? And I will also say, sometimes you can find me on like the impulse side, right? So maybe if there's something out there that I'm like, ooh, I have to have this, or, oh, it's that I'm sitting on my couch and Amazon has their deal of the day. And I'm like, oh, well, that looks cool. Go ahead and make that little impulse buy. A giver and a mom who spends too much at times. Absolutely. I can agree with you there. I see some mergers and some planners. Somebody saying I need to learn to save more. I will tell you, it definitely comes when you're learning to save with intention, right? Using some intention when it comes to your money, learning how to budget your money. So I'm hoping that we can shed a little bit of light on that today, because I was once myself not somebody who saved a lot. I spent a lot. I gave to everybody else. I put everybody's needs in front of mine. And it took me a really long time to learn how to become a saver and build up that savings account. I too was one of the 5 out of 10 Americans that didn't even have $1,000 in a savings account. And for 8 years, the first 8 years of my son's life, I was a single parent. So basically his needs became all came before mine. So, all right, well, thank you everybody for sharing. And we will kind of continue on. Betsy, okay, that you identify with that. All right. So the next one I want to talk about is kind of some money cycles, because this can kind of help us identify what money cycle we're in and where we kind of want to work towards, so we can kind of put an emphasis on learning how to save. So the first one is going to be earned, spend, borrow, spend. So this means you earn money, you spend money, you maybe have to borrow money from like a credit card or borrow money from somebody else to be able to spend more money. So at this point in this money cycle, we're kind of considered living a little bit beyond our means. The next money cycle is going to be earn, spend, earn, spend. So this is kind of like living paycheck to paycheck. So we make enough just to take care of all of our bills. We don't really have any room for anything left over. And then we wait for that next paycheck to come in. We have to pay all those bills. It's just kind of that cycle, earn, spend, which isn't necessarily bad, but we want to try to maybe get to the next step where we earn, spend, save. So earn, spend, save is we earn our money, we pay all of our bills, and then what is ever left over, we use a little bit of that for savings, okay? Now, the last one where we like to call like a sweet spot is if we can work our way to is the earn, save, spend. And let me kind of break that one down just a little bit. So we earn our money. Well, the emphasis on where we put save as the next step before spend is because if you look at your paycheck, you look at all your bills you have to pay. If you take your paycheck that you got, you put maybe $20 into savings first, then what you have left over, you pay all of your bills with. It's a lot easier to make saving a habit versus taking your paycheck, paying all of your bills, and then looking at the amount that you have left over and going, ugh, I really don't want to put any of that into savings. I really think I need all of this to live off of. But when you get into that earn, save, spend, you've already earned the money, you've saved the money, and then you look at what you have to spend and you go, okay, this is what I can manage off of. And I know it sounds simple, but I was the person that was stuck in the earn, save, spend, or earn, spend, save for a very long time, a lot of years. I was like, ugh, I'll put saving last because I need to make sure all my bills and everything are taken care of first. But when I was able to get to a point where I started building up savings just a little bit at a time, even like I said, if it's $10, $20 a paycheck, whatever works for you, you can kind of get to that point where you then go, okay, earn, save, spend, and then you're like, make it a game, right? So, okay, I've been doing $20. Let me bump that up maybe to $50 every paycheck. And then you're going to find yourself building a savings account before you know it. I think it bumped ahead. There we go. And so the next big piece when it comes to budgeting and saving is kind of finding your why. Okay, so at this point, I want everybody to take a moment and I want you to think about when you think about empowering yourself, taking control of your money and taking control of your savings and learning how to save more, what's your why, right? All of us have a why. It could be as simple as an emergency savings, okay? You want to have an emergency savings because what if something happens? We all know the roads around here are awful. And so if we hit a pothole and we bust a tire, we don't want to have to go put that on a credit card. If we have that emergency savings, we can dip into that savings, fix our tire, and we'll be on our way, right? Or if you're a homeowner, there's, water heaters, roofs, furnaces, any of those things could go out at any time. The next one is pay off debt. Maybe that's your why. Maybe you're like, I want to take control of my finances so I can pay off all of this debt and become debt free. That's been my why for a long time. The next one is retirement. Maybe you're someone who's like, I need to start thinking about what's going to happen after I'm done working and I want to start saving now so I have that money to live off of in retirement. The next one is children. A lot of you, I hope, are that are attending today have kids, or if you plan on having kids in the future. Children cost a lot of money. If we think back to that first slide, in 18 years, $233,000. So getting that savings started so we can take care of those things with children, because stuff pops up all the time. I just got an email this morning that football is starting and it's $135 to play. So stuff happens all the time with our kids. And maybe the last why is travel. Maybe you're somebody who's like, I want to travel the world. I want to take a trip. Maybe I want to take my family on our very first vacation. And maybe that's going to be your driving force as to, start budgeting a little bit more and taking control and creating that savings. Okay. So finding your why is going to be really important. So as you're sitting here, I hope maybe some of you have thought about, or you resonate with one of these, or have thought about what's your driving force to want to take control of your money. And if you feel like sharing, please go ahead and pop it in the chat. I'd love to hear. So next I kind of want to talk about why not, right? So when we talk about budgeting, people are like, I don't need to do that. It's fine. I'm in control. I don't need to worry about it. And I think a lot of times why people think that they don't need to do that is because when people hear the word budgeting, they think about not having control of their money. They feel like, someone is telling them what to do with their money. When budgeting really is going to help you gain more control over your money and spend the money the way that you want to. Mine is all of the above. Yeah, absolutely. That I'm with you there. So some reasons why we hear people decide not to budget is they feel overwhelmed. They don't even know where to start. Today, I'm going to show you a very simple math equation on how to get you budgeting in no time. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't make enough money. Well, I shared with you all, I'm a mom of a 13-year-old son. He does chores, he earns an allowance, and we've taught him how to budget his money. He has to save a portion of it. He can use a portion of it for spending. Teaching him those basics now. My hope is when he becomes an adult, he won't make some of the same financial mistakes that I made when I was a young adult. They don't want any spending limits. That's probably the number one thing that I hear is that they don't want any spending limits. When really budgeting and managing your money is going to give you the exact opposite. It's not going to limit your spending. It's going to empower you to be able to spend your money on the things that you want. The other big one is probably too much debt. People are like, I have way too much debt. I have no idea where to even start. And we can kind of talk through some of that today lightly. And then the last one, which is I don't need to save more. With that one, I mean, if somebody's at that point in time, like cool, but I feel like we always have a need to save no matter where we are at in life. So next, I'll talk a little bit about what does budgeting look like for you, right? So budgeting is going to be different for all of us. Every single one of us in this room, it's going to be different. Some of us may use a budgeting app, like at mint.com. Some of us may use paper. I'm old school. I use paper. I have a notebook. I write out all of my my money that I make. I write out all of my bills. I write out what bills come out of each paycheck. And for me, when I have it on paper, it's tangible. I can see it. I can feel it. That's when I'm successful. And if you're maybe somebody who's computer savvy, creating an Excel document. So I'm the paper kind of person. My husband is the Excel type person. He's very good on the computer, so he does his budget on there. And maybe if you've tried one of these with budgeting and you weren't successful, try a different version, because sometimes it's just finding what's going to be best for you, what's easiest for you to use, that's going to help you become successful. And then the other portion of that is kind of the next steps on the right-hand slide is when you make your budget, be specific. Be specific, as many categories as you need. If you're somebody who gets your haircut once a month or twice a month, build that into your budget. If you are someone that goes to get coffee every morning at Big B or Starbucks, put that into your budget. You need to be specific, which also brings us to being realistic. Okay, so if you're saying, I only spend $5 a month on coffee, but you know that you go to Starbucks 3 times a week, we know you're not spending $5 on coffee, right? So if we're not being realistic with ourselves, our budgets are never going to work. The next one is being consistent. So budgeting, you don't just do it one time on this magic, spreadsheet or paper or app, and then it's going to go poof, you're going to be great, and it's all going to be done. It's something that's going to have to be done consistently. We usually recommend at least once a month, if not every payday. So depending on how you get paid, some people will do it monthly, some people will do it bi-weekly, some people will do it weekly, or even semi-monthly, depending on when they get paid. And then the last one is be flexible. So budgets change, right? So if we think about it here in Michigan, our consumers' bills or board of water and light bills are probably going to be higher in the summertime because we're running our air conditioning, we're utilizing more electricity than it is going to be in the wintertime when we're using heat. We know that when the holidays approach, our grocery budgets inflate because we get together maybe with our family, or we're cooking bigger dinners or meals. So we know all of those things work into that. So being flexible. Also, being flexible, like if you were to get a promotion at work and a raise, right? You're going to have to redo your budget to allocate that new money that you're going to be bringing home. So I see somebody shared in the chat, Excel worksheet, spreadsheet works for you. That's awesome. That's good to know. And that's the one thing about it is you just have to find what works best for you. So on this next slide, I told you we have a simple math equation to learning how to budget. Okay. And I have this quote up here that I shared by Eric Warr is becoming rich is hard. Staying broke is hard. Choose your hard. Right? I think that's really kind of what it boils down to. And that quote really resonated with me because that is the point in my life where I decided, okay, I'm going to start budgeting. I'm going to take control of my money. I'm going to start saving more. I had goals, right? I was going to be getting married. I had a child. We wanted to buy a house. Like those were kind of driving forces for me as to why, I wanted to really, really, really take control of things. So the $1 million question, how do I budget? It's this simple math equation. So first, you're going to take all of your income. Okay. So if you have income from multiple sources, whether it's work, whether it's any type of child support, anything. Okay. You're going to take all of your income and you're going to write it down and you're going to total it up. And we always tell everyone round down. So if it's like, let's say your monthly income is $3,025, round down to $3,000 just to make it easy for yourself, okay? And then on the other side, we're gonna look at all of your expenses. So there's gonna be 2 types of expenses. There's fixed expenses and variable expenses, okay? So your fixed expenses are gonna be things like, they're going to be the same thing every month, like your rent, usually like your car insurance, car payment, stuff like that. Those are all going to be typically the same. The variable expenses can be things like groceries, utilities, gas, stuff like that. Like I know a year ago, I wasn't spending as much on gas as I'm spending now because we were all working from home so much. So you take your income, total all that up, minus your expenses that are totaled up. So you take those fixed expenses, those variable expenses, you add them up, and that gives you your number. So your income minus your expenses is going to equal your budget. Okay. Now there's 3 outcomes to your budget. The first one is going to be, is that you're positive. So you're spending within your budget and you have some more room for your savings. Okay, that's where we all hope to be, right? In a perfect world. If you come out negative, that means we're spending more than we're earning. So we're living beyond our means at this point. Okay, so if this is maybe where you're falling, go back and look at your budget and really look at what are you spending your money on every month. So I'll share with you all, okay? I used to be a big B coffee drinker, okay? So if anybody's been to Big B before, they know that those are like $4 or $5 for a coffee, okay? So I was getting Big B 3 days a week. Well, that's $15 a week. That's $30 every 2 weeks. That's $60 a month I was spending on coffee. I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. Let me learn how to do this at home. I can make a cup of coffee at home now for 28 cents. So if you're negative, don't think it's a bad thing. Okay, and you might be negative when you go to do this the very first time, and that's okay. It's a learning curve. That's where we have to start somewhere, right? But then going back and looking can help you understand maybe what changes you need to make in your budget, so then you can lean more towards the positive side or the even side, and then get to the positive side. And then the last one is even. So this is going to be kind of like that living paycheck to paycheck. All the bills are paid, but we don't really have anything left over for savings. Okay. So that's another opportunity for us to reflect on our budget, what we're spending our money on, our expenses, and see maybe where we can change some things up, so we can maybe put a little bit more in savings. And then another good quote up here from Darren Hardy: the slightest adjustments to your daily routines can dramatically alter the outcomes in your life. And this, I share this quote because it resonated with me. I mean, that was kind of like the light bulb for me when I realized I was spending $60 a month on coffee. And please know, I'm not hating on anybody who spends that kind of money on coffee. If your coffee is important to you at Starbucks or Big B every day, please drink it and do so. You know, we all have different priorities, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about budgeting is we all have different spending ways. We all have different necessities that we have to spend our money on or want to spend our money on. So there's no right or wrong. Oops, there we go. So next I want to talk a little bit about some savings options. Oops, I'm so sorry. My computer, technical difficulty here. While I'm getting that fixed, does anybody have any questions so far? Comments, questions, anything? Please remember, go ahead and throw those in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them. Slideshow. Okay. Can you guys see that okay? All right. Sorry about that. All right. So next I want to talk a little bit about some savings options. So saving was a big thing that also goes into budgeting, right? We want to be able to alter our budget so we can get to a point where we're saving more money. So the traditional savings and certificates, I'll talk a little bit about those. Those are a great option. Okay, so savings accounts allow us easy access to our money if a financial situation were to arise. You may also hear these options be considered as like liquid funds if they're in a savings account. And what that means, liquid funds, means that they're available to us at all times. Okay, I did share with you, I used my jar for my coins and I saved $100. That's awesome. Absolutely. We save coins around here too. We take our little piggy bank in and it usually ends up being about $100 a year. It's awesome. It's an amazing way to save money. The other one is certificates. So maybe you have a little bit of money that you want to kind of lock up for a little bit. So a lot of times with certificates, you put the money into the certificate, it stays in a certificate for a certain amount of time, and you earned a little bit higher dividends on those. And dividends are going to be money that is paid to you from a bank or a credit union for having your funds there in a savings, okay, or in a certificate. These are going to be really great options if you're looking to start or grow a savings account. I don't know if any of you do your banking with MSU Federal Credit Union, but we have a really unique product called a 1-year add-on certificate. And this 1-year add-on certificate is really awesome because you can start it with as little as $50, and then you can add into the certificate anytime you want. So a lot of times with certificates, you put a set amount in there at one point in time. It stays locked up. You can't add any money to it or take any money to it without there being a small penalty. But with this unique certificate that we have at the credit union, it gives you the opportunity to continue to add on to it. So when I told you I was that person that didn't have that $1,000 in that savings account. That's exactly what I did. I did a 1-year add-on certificate. I opened it with $50, and then I just started putting money into it every time I got paid, so I could reach that point of having $1,000 into it when I was starting to save. So it's a really good option. The next one is going to be retirement accounts. You may hear those also be called as 401ks. There's lots of different retirement accounts. Today, I'm just going to talk about 401ks because they're a great way to help save for your future. So a lot of times, if you are going to have one of those offered, it's going to be offered through your employer. And you get to receive certain tax breaks on the money that's in your 401k. So it's a great benefit to look for if you're looking for a job or a career. And you can usually opt in through your employer. And usually employers will give they'll contribute, a certain percentage or match what you're putting into it. So let's say if they do an employee match, if you put in 3% into your 401k, the company you work for will be 3% as well. They'll match it going into your 401k. So then you have 6% going into your 401k. This is a great long-term savings option. This is going to be, starting to save now with looking at retirement way down the road. And then the last one I'm going to talk about today is children's savings accounts. So children's savings accounts help children start saving at a really young age. I think that's super important, right? We want them to know about money. We want to teach them how to save money, how to go to the credit union or the bank, and kind of what that looks like. I'm not sure if a lot of you know, but here in Lansing, at the Lansing School District, we have a program called Lansing Save. I'm one of our Lansing Save teachers, so I get to go into the children's classrooms, kindergarten through 7th grade, and I get to teach them about money and savings. It's a partnership that's between MSUFCU, the Lansing School District, and the Capital Area United Way. So any student that's in the Lansing School District, kindergarten through 7th grade, will have a Lansing Save account to help pay for post-secondary education expenses. So if I have any parents out there that have children in the school district and you didn't know about it, hopefully you know about it now because it's a really great program. And then another popular children's savings accounts are called the 529 plans. So these are investment accounts that offer tax benefits when it's used to pay for qualified education expenses for a designated, they call it a designated beneficiary, which is your child. So here in the state of Michigan, you can make tax deductible contributions up to $5,000 per single year or $10,000 for a married couple filing jointly. Oh, cool. So I am glad to hear that some people didn't know about the Lansing Save program. It's near and dear to our heart. And so I'm glad to be able to share that with you today. And I would always say, if you're looking for a particular children's savings account, check with your bank or your credit union. A lot of times they will have kind of their own version of a specified children's savings account. So I would say talk with them because everybody's are just a little bit different. All right, so set ourselves up for future success. Okay, so I know we talked a little bit about this when we talked about pay cycles, our money cycles. So the pay yourself first. So if anything sticks with you today, I want you to think about paying yourself first. So when you start budgeting your money, you start saving a little bit, put yourself at the top. Okay, so when I told you I write out my bills. And so at the very top, I put either myself or I put savings, and I build that into my budget. Okay. So when you learn how to pay yourself first, when you learn to start, saving more money or able to start saving more money, it's going to allow you to save for larger purchases down the road. It's going to allow you to save for any emergencies or unexpected things that pop up. And then also savings towards your future, so maybe you want to save and buy a new car. Maybe you want to save just to have an emergency fund. Maybe you want to save for that vacation. Maybe it's all of the above. But working on paying yourself first is going to be a huge tool for your success. I did have a question come in. Can the add-on certificates be opened? Yes. So those can be open. If you're a member at MSU Federal Credit Union, they can be opened. If you're not a member, please stop into one of our branches. We have a lot of different ways to get your account up and running. And the add-on certificates can be opened online, over the phone, or at the branch. Great question. So a fun savings option I like to share when we do these presentations, one of them is the 52-week challenge. So maybe some of you have heard of this one before, but you save the corresponding dollar amount for that week of the year. So a lot of times people will start this at like the beginning of the year, and they do week 1, they save $1. Week 2, they save $2. Week 3, they save $3. All the way up until week 52, they save $52. After that full year, you'll have saved $1,378. It's an easy way for you to kind of build up that $1,000 in that savings account. We've even had people do it on the flip side. So at the beginning of the year, they start with week 52 and they go 52, 51, 50 and work their way down. So when we get into like the holiday months, they're only having to put like $3 or $2 or $1 into their savings account. But just a really cool way to earn or to save about $1,300. All right, so the next one, paying off debt, right? We talked about this a little bit and being one of our whys as to kind of, be in control of our finances. So there's a couple of methods that I want to share with you that they were successful for me, and they've been successful for a lot of people that we've talked to with trying to pay off debt. So the first one is going to be called the snowball method. So you make your minimum payment on all of your debts but one. Okay, so maybe identify the smallest debt to pay off, and you pay a little bit extra on that one each month. Okay, so then when that one is paid off, you're able to take the amount that was paid on that debt and apply it to the next smallest balance. Okay, so it's kind of a snowball effect. So you write out all of your debt, you identify which one is the lowest debt. So that one you put just maybe $20 extra on every single month until that's paid off. And then all of that money that you were using on that one, you put on your next smallest debt. And it kind of goes in a circle, but it's a snowball effect. And eventually you're going to be able to get all of that paid off. There's another method called the avalanche method. This one is very similar, but this one is a little bit more aggressive. So instead of looking at what the smallest debt is, you look at what maybe the debt is with the lowest or the highest interest rate, and you pay that one off first. So you make the minimum payments to all your debts but one, identify the debt with the highest interest rate, and you pay extra on that one, right? Because we know if we have a debt or a credit card or something like that, we're paying interest. We don't want to have to pay interest. We want to be able to get that knocked out, so we're not paying on borrowed money. So after you identify what the highest interest rate is, pay a little bit extra on that one each month. And then when that one's paid off, you take all of that money and you put it on the next debt that has the highest interest rate. So that one, it's very similar, but like I said, instead of looking at the total amount that you owe, you're looking at the interest rate. So some key takeaways on this one is going to be list out all of your debts. Identify the best approach that's for you, whether it's the snowball method or the avalanche method, and then make minimum payments on all your debts but one. Like I said, it could be an extra $10 a month. It could be an extra $20 a month. Don't do it to where it's going to break you. You want to be able to do it where you still have room for savings, you still have money to live off of, but you're taking a little bit more of an aggressive approach in paying that debt off. And lastly, some final tips on setting up a family budget. So first, you want to look at creating your budget. We talked about a lot of different tools today to help you create that budget. And then maybe when you're creating that budget, setting some financial goals for yourself. Maybe it's, I want to save $100 in the next 6 months. Maybe it's something tangible, something that's reachable. If we make these big old savings goals and they're not attainable, then we're going to feel like we failed, and nobody wants to feel like they failed. Okay. So set some financial goals, even if it's small ones. Maybe I'm going to save $20 this month, or save $20 more than what I did last month. The next one is pay down debt. We all know paying down debt, none of us want to have debt, right? But we all have to have it from time to time. So working on paying that down. Create that emergency savings. Having that savings set up for an emergency or something were to arise is going to be super important. Control your food spending. I work with a lot of different groups, and a lot of the different groups that I work with, we talk a little bit about grocery budgeting, because when you have a family, if you are the grocery shopper in your family, we spend tons of money on food. Okay. Nothing is worse than going to the grocery store and spending a ton of money on food and then going, okay, what are we ordering out for dinner? So if you control your food spending, yes, I can make sure that these slides are available for later reference. When you control your food spending, you can kind of reel in your budget a little bit more and still plan for fun. So when you're building your budget, set a little bit of money aside for fun, whether it's a trip to the movies, whether it's, saving a little bit of money and taking the kids and having a picnic on the beach. We know we have to take care of our needs. We know we have to pay our bills. We know we have to handle all these things in life, but we still have to have room for fun. And fun doesn't have to be these big, extravagant, expensive vacations. Fun can be something as small as taking a trip to the movies. It could be, going to the park and playing, and maybe packing a picnic and taking it with us, or you're treating the family to ice cream, stuff, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be extravagant. So I wanted to leave a couple of minutes at the end if we had any questions. And I also wanted to share with you some additional resources. Here at MSU Federal Credit Union, we have a podcast. So if you're somebody who enjoys podcasts, we have our podcast Wallet Watch. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Podbean. If you are a member of the credit union, then if you don't know, I'm going to tell you about our local loyalty program. So just for being a member at MSUFCU, there's lots of different businesses in the area that you can use your MSUFCU debit card at and receive discounts. Like our latest one was Dunham's. If you go into Dunham's and make a purchase, you can get 10% off for just being an MSUFCU member. And then our Financial 4.0. So as educators with the credit union, we run a website called financial4.0.org. It's got tons of different articles, quizzes, lots of different resources in there for you to utilize. And we hope you check us out. You also can find us on social media. And I want to thank you for letting me come and present today. I hope you found some of the information useful and can empower yourself to work on some saving and some budgeting.